My name is Sarah O'Brien, and 6 months ago, I was sleeping in my 2010 Honda Civic in a Walmart parking lot. The woman who had everything: a thriving design business, a loving fiancé, a supportive sister, reduced to counting quarters for dollar menu dinners. How did I end up there? Betrayal. The kind that comes wrapped in wedding plans and sisterly hugs. The kind that steals not just your money, but your ability to trust. Marcus and Claire took everything from me through an elaborate investment scam, leaving me with nothing but shame and a car that barely started on cold mornings. But here's what they didn't count on. Rock bottom has a strange way of revealing who your real allies are. And sometimes, the universe delivers justice in ways you never expected. Before I tell you how I went from homeless to standing in front of 200 witnesses as they lost everything, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if stories of resilience truly speak to you. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I love knowing where in the world you're listening from. Now, let me take you back to that pivotal day at the Riverside Heights launch. The grand ballroom at the Riverside Heights complex gleamed under crystal chandeliers, each one worth more than my old annual salary. 200 of California's most influential real estate players mingled with champagne flutes, their conversations a symphony of deals and millions. The April afternoon sun streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating architectural models of the $50 million development that would reshape the city's skyline. I stood near the registration table, my new Armani suit a stark contrast to the thrift store clothes I'd worn just months ago. The fabric felt like armor, each thread woven with purpose. My fingers traced the edge of the leather folder in my hands, contents still hidden, waiting for the perfect moment. That's when I saw them. Marcus entered first, his trademark confidence preceding him like a herald. That same swagger that once made my heart skip now only reminded me of how blind I'd been. His navy suit was expensive but flashy, always more concerned with appearance than substance. Claire followed, her red dress commanding attention as she laughed at something on her phone. My sister, 2 years older but decades behind in integrity. They carried an elaborate bouquet of white roses and lilies, my former favorite flowers. The gesture might have seemed thoughtful to onlookers. To me, it reeked of calculated manipulation. The Thompson O'Brien Design Group, I heard Marcus tell a cluster of investors near the bar. We're hoping to secure the interior contract for Phase 2. Claire nodded enthusiastically. We've revolutionized sustainable luxury design. Our portfolio speaks for itself. Our portfolio. The words sliced through the air. Every design they claimed, every innovation they touted, all stolen from the woman they'd left sleeping in parking lots. I watched them work the room with practiced ease, shaking hands with people who controlled billions in development funds. They moved like sharks through still water, unaware that the ecosystem had changed. They had no idea that the meek designer they'd discarded had been quietly rebuilding, piece by piece, connection by connection. Daniel Chen's security team knew my name. The catering staff addressed me as Director O'Brien. The event coordinator had confirmed my presentation slot. Yet Marcus and Claire remained oblivious, too intoxicated by their own ambition to notice the shift in the room's energy whenever I passed. They had no idea who I'd become. 2 years ago, my life looked like a Pinterest board come to life. My home studio in Oakland buzzed with creative energy, clients booking consultations months in advance. Marcus had proposed on my 30th birthday, down on one knee in the garden I'd designed myself. We were building something beautiful together, or so I thought. Claire would drop by every few weeks, always with a crisis. Sarah, honey, I just need a tiny loan until my commission comes through. Her real estate career perpetually on the verge of breakthrough, perpetually needing rescue. But she was family. You don't keep scorecards with family. The warning signs were there, wrapped in concern and condescension. You're so talented with colors and fabrics, Marcus would say, usually when I suggested expanding the business. But you don't understand the financial side like I do. Claire's version was softer but cut deeper. You're an artist, Sarah. Don't burden yourself with the ugly business stuff. That's what you have us for. Just an artist, Just someone who makes things pretty, not someone who'd built a six-figure business from scratch. Not someone who'd negotiated with contractors, managed budgets, or navigated client politics. To them, I was a useful talent to be managed, not a businesswoman to be respected. I remember the last normal dinner we shared. Chinese takeout at my dining table, 3 weeks before everything collapsed. Marcus talked about investment opportunities while Claire complained about her broker. I sketched designs on napkins, lost in creating beauty while they plotted to destroy everything beautiful in my life. Family doesn't need contracts, right? Marcus had said that night, refilling my wine glass. We trust each other. Trust. Such a small word for something that takes years to build and seconds to shatter. The opportunity came wrapped in urgency and family loyalty. Marcus burst into my studio one October morning, laptop in hand, talking fast about a revolutionary property tech startup. Green building materials, sustainable sourcing, everything you believe in, Sarah. But we need to move now. The investment window closes tomorrow. Claire backed him up via FaceTime from her car. I'm putting in my entire savings, Sarah. This is our chance to build something together. $500,000. My life savings, my emergency fund, the equity from refinancing my home. Marcus had the paperwork ready, his business degree finally useful for something. I've reviewed everything, it's solid gold. I signed where he pointed, initialing pages I didn't read because why would I? This was my future husband, my sister. The startup would triple our investment within 18 months, Marcus promised. We'd have enough for the dream wedding, the house in Marin, the life we'd planned. The wire transfer went through at 3:47 p.m. on October 15th. I remember because I screenshot the confirmation, thinking I'd frame it someday as the moment our empire began. 2 weeks later, the startup's website disappeared. The CEO's LinkedIn vanished. The office address led to an empty warehouse in Hayward. My calls to Marcus went straight to voicemail. Claire's phone was suddenly disconnected. When I finally tracked Marcus down at his apartment, he was packing. It's not my fault you didn't do due diligence, he said, not even looking at me. Investment involves risk. The paperwork I'd signed? Buried in legal language were clauses absolving him of liability, transferring my design copyrights, even granting him power of attorney over my business accounts. My signature appeared on documents I'd never seen, authorizing transactions I'd never approved. The prosecutor later called it textbook affinity fraud. I called it the death of who I used to be. The foreclosure notice came on a Tuesday. 60 days to vacate the home I'd spent 5 years perfecting. My business accounts, mysteriously drained through authorized transfers. Credit cards maxed out on purchases I'd never made. Even my grandmother's jewelry, kept in a safe, Marcus knew the combination to gone. I sold everything worth selling. My design awards went for $50 on Craigslist. The custom furniture I'd built, piece by piece, liquidated for pennies on the dollar. Within 3 months, my entire life fit in the trunk of my aging Honda Civic. Walmart parking lots became my bedroom. Planet Fitness, my bathroom for the $10 monthly membership. Starbucks, my office where I nursed a single coffee for hours, desperately trying to salvage client relationships with borrowed Wi-Fi and a dying laptop. Marcus had vanished completely. Claire blocked me on everything, but not before posting photos from her sudden business trip to Cabo. They'd even poisoned my professional network, spreading rumors about my mental breakdown and financial irresponsibility. Rock bottom isn't just about losing things. It's about losing yourself, piece by piece, until you're not sure what's left to save. Then Daniel Chen walked into that Starbucks. Sarah O'Brien? I looked up from my laptop screen, where I'd been staring at the same email for 20 minutes, trying to word a plea for freelance work that didn't sound desperate. Daniel Chen stood there in his understated Tom Ford suit, looking exactly as he had 3 years ago when I'd redesigned his first boutique hotel. My instinct was to run. Hide. Anything but let a successful client see me like this. Unwashed hair hidden under a baseball cap, the same clothes I'd worn for 3 days. Mr. Chen, I managed, closing my laptop to hide the overdue payment notices. He didn't pretend not to notice my situation. That's what I'd always appreciated about Daniel, his inability to do polite fiction. May I? He gestured to the empty chair. For the next hour, he listened. No judgment, no platitudes, just occasional questions that cut straight to the heart of things. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Talent like yours shouldn't sleep in parking lots, he said finally. I have a proposition. My walls went up immediately. I'd learned the hard way what propositions from powerful men could cost. He must have seen it in my face. A legitimate business offer, Sarah. I'm launching the largest mixed-use development in Northern California. I need a creative director, someone with vision, taste, and frankly, someone who understands what it's like to lose everything. Why? Because someone who's been broken and rebuilt themselves doesn't just design spaces, they create sanctuaries. And that's what Riverside Heights needs to be. He slid a business card across the table. Think about it. But Sarah, don't think too long. The launch event is in 8 weeks and we have work to do. The card felt like possibility itself. There's something you need to know, Daniel said the next morning in his downtown office, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the bay. Marcus Thompson and Claire O'Brien have been shopping your portfolio around the city. My coffee turned to acid in my stomach. My portfolio? Your designs with their names attached. They've already secured 2 small contracts using your work. He pushed a tablet across his marble desk, showing screenshots of my projects on their new website. The room spun. Not only had they stolen my money, they were stealing my professional identity. I can't prove those are mine. They have all my original files. Actually, Daniel leaned back. You can. But first, we need to discuss what's at stake here. He laid it out with surgical precision. If I stayed silent, Marcus and Claire would continue building their empire on my creativity. My reputation in the industry would evaporate completely. No one would believe the homeless woman over the polished couple with the impressive portfolio. Or, he said, we do this strategically. You take the creative director position, we document everything, build an ironclad case. Then, when they least expect it, we let the truth speak for itself. You mean revenge? I mean justice. There's a difference. He pulled out a folder. This is a draft employment contract. Salary, benefits, and most importantly, an exclusive design agreement that predates any claims they might make. The number on the salary line made me blink. Twice my best year as a freelancer. But first, we need evidence, he continued. Email trails, original sketches, anything that proves the timeline of creation. Can you do that? I thought of the cloud backup Marcus didn't know about, the one linked to my old college email. Yes. Good, because the Riverside Heights launch will be very public, very visible, the perfect stage for truth. You know that moment when you realize the universe might actually have your back? That's what I felt sitting in Daniel's office. If you've ever been betrayed by people you trusted most, you know the war between wanting justice and just wanting to disappear. If this story is touching something in you, please hit that like button and subscribe. It really does help more people find these stories. Drop justice in the comments if you believe karma is real. And now, let me tell you how we spent the next 2 months preparing for the most important presentation of my life. Daniel's legal team worked like a precision instrument. The lead attorney, a woman named Patricia who'd seen too many similar cases, laid out our strategy in rapid-fire questions. Your designs? Stolen. All of them. Proof? Email trails. Date-stamped files. Their weakness. Greed. And sloppiness. We spent weeks excavating digital evidence. My old college email account became a goldmine. 5 years of design evolution, each sketch dated, each revision tracked. Marcus had been thorough in stealing my recent work, but he'd never known about this backup from before we met. Patricia's paralegal discovered something even better. Copyright fraud, she said, sliding papers across the conference table. Claire filed design copyrights last month, under her name, for work created while you were demonstrably the sole creator. That's 5 years minimum if prosecuted. Federal crime. The most damning evidence came from an unexpected source, my former clients. 3 came forward independently, sharing emails where Marcus had pitched my designs as his own while I was living in my car. Timestamps showed he'd been planning this for months before the investment scam. We need one more thing, Patricia said. Public documentation of your role here, something undeniable. Daniel smiled. The Riverside Heights launch. 200 witnesses, full media coverage. Sarah will present as creative director. And if they show up? We're counting on it, Daniel said. Marcus already RSVP'd. He's bringing potential investors to show off his portfolio. Patricia gathered the documents. Copyright fraud, wire fraud, identity theft. We have enough to bury them, but Sarah, the choice of when and how is yours. I thought about those nights in the Walmart parking lot, counting change for ramen. The launch, publicly, let everyone see who they really are. 2 months of invisible work. While Marcus and Claire networked at industry parties, I lived in Daniel's corporate apartment, designing 18 hours a day. Riverside Heights wasn't just a project anymore. It was my resurrection. Every floor plan, every material selection, every color story carried my signature style. The sustainable luxury Marcus had mockingly promised investors? I made it real. Reclaimed wood from California's historic piers, solar glass that turned windows into power sources, living walls that cleaned the air while looking like art. Daniel gave me complete creative control and a team of 20. They didn't know my history, only that the new creative director had vision. I earned their respect through work, not sympathy. The launch event will be perfect, Daniel said one evening, reviewing the presentation deck. Media, investors, everyone who matters in California real estate. Marcus and Claire had no idea I was involved. Daniel's assistant had carefully kept my name off public communications. As far as they knew, some mysterious new creative director had emerged from Chen Development's corporate structure. Their confidence grew with each passing week. I monitored their social media, watching them celebrate preliminary investor meetings, posting photos with my designs visible in the background. Claire even started a blog about authentic design philosophy, using my words, my concepts, twisted into her narrative. The invitation list for the launch was a who's who of West Coast development, including, of course, the Thompson O'Brien Design Group. They'd walk into that ballroom expecting opportunity. Instead, they'd find accountability. April 15th, 6 months to the day since I'd lost everything. I arrived at the Grand Ballroom at noon, 4 hours before the event. My team had transformed the space overnight. Every detail reflected the Riverside Heights vision, sustainable elegance that whispered rather than shouted. The presentation screens were tested 3 times, the portfolio display carefully curated. 20 projects spanning 5 years, all indisputably mine, ready to display at the touch of a button. By 3:30, the early arrivals began filtering in. Tech executives, pension fund managers, international investors. I greeted each one personally, but carefully. Director O'Brien, not Sarah, not yet. Then I saw them through the window. Marcus stepped out of a Tesla he couldn't afford, helping Claire with her dress. They moved with the confidence of people who believed they'd already won. The flowers they carried, white roses and lilies again, seemed almost laughably predictable. I watched them enter, watched them scan the room with predatory efficiency. Claire spotted potential marks immediately, her smile brightening as she recognized the Goldman Sachs team. Marcus made a beeline for the Korean investors Daniel had been courting for months. They were so busy hunting, they didn't notice the prey had become the predator. "Showtime in 30, Daniel's assistant whispered. I positioned myself where they wouldn't see me immediately, but where I could watch everything. The folder in my hands felt weightless now. The evidence, the contracts, the proof, all just props in a play whose ending I'd already written. Time to introduce myself properly. The room's energy shifted when I moved through it, though Marcus and Claire were too focused on their marks to notice. The senior executives from Cushman and Wakefield greeted me warmly. "Director O'Brien, the designs are stunning." The Chronicle's real estate reporter asked for an exclusive interview. After the presentation, I promised, small seeds of authority, planted in plain sight. "Sarah?" I turned to find Jennifer Walsh, my former biggest client, looking confused but delighted. "I heard you disappeared. Marcus said you'd had some kind of breakdown." "Did he?" I kept my voice neutral. "I've been busy with a new position. You'll hear about it shortly." She glanced at my outfit. Clearly expensive. Clearly new. Then, at the Chen Development badge on my lanyard, the word Director visible even from a distance. Her eyes widened slightly. Security approached. "Director O'Brien, Mr. Chen wants to confirm the presentation timeline." "5 minutes," I said, loud enough for Jennifer to hear. She wasn't the only one listening now. Word rippled through clusters of conversations. Director O'Brien, Chen Development, the mysterious creative director. I passed close enough to Marcus and Claire to hear their pitch. "Our firm's philosophy centers on authentic sustainability," Claire was saying to a venture capitalist. "We don't just design spaces, we create experiences." My words, my philosophy. Delivered to a man whose firm I'd pitched to last year. The folder in my hands contained everything. The exclusive contract with Chen Development dated 2 months ago. The cease and desist letters ready to serve. The copyright documentation. But its power came from timing. Let them climb higher. The fall would be that much more instructive. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC's voice filled the ballroom. "Please take your seats. The presentation is about to begin." They found me by the architectural model, studying the miniature paradise I'd designed. Marcus approached first, his confidence faltering for just a second when he recognized me. Claire followed, her smile freezing, then forcibly brightening. "Sarah?" Marcus's voice carried false warmth. "What are you doing here?" I turned slowly, letting them see the full transformation. The designer suit, the professional styling, the badge that read, Creative Director. Most importantly, the complete absence of fear in my eyes. "Working," I said simply. Claire recovered first, rushing forward with the flowers. "We've been looking for you. We were so worried when you disappeared." "Were you?" I didn't take the bouquet. Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Look, about what happened with the investment. That was unfortunate. But we could work together now. You could consult for us." The audacity was breathtaking. They stood there, wearing success built on my ruins, offering me crumbs from my own table. "Actually," Claire added, touching my arm like we were still sisters, "we're about to close a huge deal here. We could bring you in as a silent partner, help you get back on your feet." Around us, people were taking their seats. The venture capitalist Claire had been pitching, watched our interaction with interest. The Chronicle reporter had her phone out, discreetly recording. "That's generous," I said, my voice carrying just enough for nearby listeners. "But I'm quite busy with my current position." "Doing what exactly?" Marcus's tone sharpened. He'd noticed the attention we were drawing. Before I could answer, the lights dimmed slightly. "Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated for our presentation." Claire grabbed my wrist. "Sarah, don't do anything stupid. You know how this industry works." I removed her hand gently, but firmly. "Yes, I finally do." Marcus raised his voice, ensuring the lingering crowd would hear. "This is our designer," he announced, gesturing to me like I was a rescued stray. "We've been mentoring her through some difficulties." The condescension dripped like honey. Several investors turned to watch. Claire jumped in, her voice saccharine. "Sarah's been struggling since her business failed. Mental health issues, financial problems. We're family, so of course we're helping her rebuild." "She was homeless," Marcus added, his concern so perfectly performed. "Living in her car, poor thing. We're trying to get her stable enough to work again." Each word was calculated to diminish me, to paint them as saviors, and me as charity case. The investors they'd been courting exchanged glances, some sympathetic, others uncomfortable. This was their play: destroy my credibility before I could speak. It's been hard watching her spiral, Claire told the Goldman Sachs team, who'd moved closer. But family doesn't give up on family, right? Even when they make terrible decisions. Marcus nodded gravely. The investment loss hit her hard. She trusted the wrong people. The irony of that statement hung in the air like smog. They were building a narrative in real time, each detail designed to explain away anything I might say. Unstable, unreliable, unwell. If I reacted emotionally now, I'd prove their point. If I tried to defend myself, I'd look desperate. So I did neither. How thoughtful of you, I said calmly. To care so much about my well-being while using my designs for your portfolio. Marcus's eye twitched. Claire's smile strained. Excuse me? She said. Daniel's voice came over the sound system before I could respond. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the future of sustainable luxury. Please take your seats. The crowd began moving toward the chairs. Marcus and Claire had no choice but to follow. Their attempted character assassination incomplete. 200 faces turned toward the commotion we'd created. The venture capitalists, the reporters, the industry titans, all watching the unfinished drama between the polished couple and the woman they'd called broken. Phones appeared in hands, subtle but present. The Chronicle reporter had moved closer, her expression sharp with interest. These people knew theater when they saw it, and something about this interaction promised a show. Marcus and Claire felt the shift. Their confidence wavered as they realized they'd become the entertainment. Claire's laugh came too loud, too bright. We should find our seats. Yes, Marcus agreed quickly, trying to guide me with them. Sarah, sit with us, like old times. I have an assigned seat, I said, not moving. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Jennifer Walsh was openly staring now, pieces clicking together in her mind. The Goldman Sachs team had their phones out, likely Googling Chen Development Creative Director. What's really going on here? Someone murmured behind us. Daniel stood at the podium, watching the scene with calculated patience. He'd orchestrated this perfectly, letting them create the spectacle, letting the audience lean in with anticipation. Sarah, Marcus hissed under his breath, whatever you think you're doing. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel's voice cut through smoothly. Before we begin our presentation, I'd like to acknowledge some special guests. Every eye in the room focused on us. Marcus and Claire stood frozen, flowers wilting in Claire's grip, their faces masks of professional terror. They'd lost control of the narrative, and they knew it. But they had no idea how much worse it would get. Daniel commanded the podium with quiet authority. Riverside Heights represents 18 months of vision, innovation, and meticulous planning. Before we unveil the full scope of this project, I want to recognize the creative force behind it all. Marcus straightened, his hand moving to adjust his tie. Claire shifted forward slightly, ready to claim their moment. They'd interpreted Daniel's words as their cue, their invitation to glory. This development exists because one person saw possibility where others saw problems, Daniel continued. Someone who understands that true luxury isn't about excess. It's about harmony between human needs and environmental responsibility. The screens behind him came alive with images of Riverside Heights, my designs, my vision, filling the wall in stunning detail. Marcus's face went pale. Claire's mouth opened slightly. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel said, his eyes finding mine across the room, our creative director has something special to share with you today. He didn't say my name, not yet. But the security team was already moving, creating a clear path from where I stood to the stage. The spotlight operator, following rehearsed cues, found me in the crowd. Marcus grabbed my arm. Don't, he whispered urgently. We can work this out. Claire's flowers fell to the floor as she reached for me too. Sarah, please. We're family. Family. The word that had once been my weakness. I stepped forward, out of their reach, into the light. The crowd parted like water. Each step toward the podium was measured, deliberate, filmed by dozens of phones. Behind me, I heard Claire's sharp intake of breath as the reality hit her. They'd just publicly claimed to be mentoring Chen Development's creative director. This moment, walking through that crowd while Marcus and Claire stood frozen, I still get chills remembering it. 200 pairs of eyes, two people who betrayed me, and one chance to reclaim everything they stole. If you've ever had to stand up to people who tried to break you, comment strength below. Your stories give others courage. And if this resonates with you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories of justice and redemption. Now, let me tell you what happened when I finally reached that microphone. Thank you, Daniel. My voice carried clear and strong through the sound system. I'm Sarah O'Brien, Creative Director for Chen Development Group. The reaction was immediate. Phones raised higher. The Chronicle reporter moved to the front row. Marcus and Claire stood paralyzed in the middle of the audience, flowers scattered at their feet. For those who don't know me, I continued, letting my eyes find them in the crowd, I've been designing sustainable luxury spaces for 8 years. Some of you have been in my projects without knowing it. The screens behind me shifted to a portfolio display. 20 projects, chronologically arranged, each dated and credited. The oldest, from 2016, long before Marcus entered my life. The newest, Riverside Heights, with my signature visible on every design document. 3 years ago, I said, clicking to the next slide, I had the privilege of redesigning Mr. Chen's first boutique hotel. That project taught me that true luxury respects both people and planet. Jennifer Walsh gasped audibly. She'd been at that hotel opening. She knew exactly who'd designed it. Since joining Chen Development 2 months ago, I continued, the date hanging in the air like an accusation, I've poured everything into Riverside Heights. Every sustainable material, every energy-efficient system, every space that honors both beauty and responsibility. This is my vision realized. The slide changed again. Email threads, dated and authenticated. I'm particularly proud that we've maintained complete creative control. As you can see from our exclusive contract, all design work for Riverside Heights comes through my office. No outside firms, no consultants, no exceptions. Marcus's face had gone from pale to gray. Claire swayed slightly, her hand finding a chair back for support. But before we dive into the technical presentation, I said, my voice warming with false kindness, I want to thank Marcus Thompson and Claire O'Brien for attending. Their interest in my work has been quite motivating. The room held its breath, waiting for the kill shot. There's something you all should know, I said, clicking to a new slide. The designs you may have seen from the Thompson O'Brien Design Group are quite familiar. They should be. I created them. The screen filled with evidence, side-by-side comparisons. My original sketches, dated and notarized, next to their website portfolio. Email threads where Marcus pitched my designs while I was homeless. Copyright filings in Claire's name for work created years before she claimed them. Every design they've shown you, I continued, my voice steady as a surgeon's hand, was stolen from me. While I lived in my car, they built their business on my creativity. Gasps rippled through the audience. The venture capitalist Claire had been pitching to stood up, his face dark with anger. 2 investors who'd already signed preliminary agreements with Marcus pulled out their phones, likely calling their lawyers. The copyright fraud alone, I clicked to the legal documentation, carries a 5-year federal sentence. The wire fraud, identity theft, and breach of fiduciary duty add considerably more. She's lying, Marcus's voice cracked across the room. She's unstable. Tell them, Claire. But Claire was backing away from him, her self-preservation instincts finally kicking in. The security team had moved closer to them both, ready to escort them out if needed. I have receipts, I said simply, clicking through email after email, document after document. Including the investment fraud that stole my life savings, the forged signatures, the emptied accounts, all while being my fiancé and my sister. The Chronicle reporter was typing furiously. Several investors were on calls with what sounded like legal teams. The Goldman Sachs representatives had turned their backs on Marcus entirely. Chen Development believes in justice, I concluded. Which is why we've provided all evidence to the district attorney's office. They'll be handling things from here. Two uniformed officers entered the ballroom, their timing impeccable. Marcus tried to run. He didn't get far. The officers moved through the crowd with practiced efficiency. Marcus Thompson, you're wanted for questioning regarding fraud allegations. This is insane, Marcus shouted, but his voice had lost its power. The room watched him like spectators at a car crash, horrified but unable to look away. Claire tried to slip toward the exit, but found Daniel's security team blocking her path. Ms. O'Brien, the second officer addressed her, we need you to come with us as well. I didn't know, Claire's voice pitched high with panic. It was all Marcus. Sarah, tell them. The investors they'd courted were already on their phones. I heard fragments. Pull out immediately. Full audit required. Legal action necessary. The venture capitalist Claire had pitched stormed over to her. You showed me fraudulent work. My firm's reputation is on the line. He turned to his associate. Document everything. We're suing for damages. Jennifer Walsh approached the stage. Sarah, I had no idea. Marcus told me you'd had a breakdown, that you'd abandoned your clients. I'm so sorry I believed him. You couldn't have known, I said into the microphone, ensuring everyone heard. They were very convincing. The Chronicle reporter raised her hand. Ms. O'Brien, what happens to their existing contracts? Void, I answered clearly. All contracts signed under fraudulent pretenses are legally invalid. Chen Development's legal team will be reaching out to affected parties. Marcus struggled against the officer's grip. You can't do this. Sarah, we were getting married. Were, I said quietly, but the microphone caught it. Past tense. As they were escorted out, Claire sobbing and Marcus still protesting, the room erupted in conversation. Phones flashed, recording everything. By tomorrow, this would be industry news across California. But I wasn't done yet. Before we continue with the Riverside Heights presentation, I said, drawing the room's attention back, there are legal matters to address. Patricia, Daniel's lead attorney, joined me on stage with a folder of documents. Her presence commanded immediate attention. Everyone knew her reputation for destroying corporate criminals. Cease and desist orders have been filed, Patricia announced. Any individual or firm currently using designs created by Ms. O'Brien must immediately halt operations pending verification of ownership. She clicked through a list on the screen. 7 companies appeared, all current clients of Thompson O'Brien Design Group. These firms have 72 hours to provide proof of legitimate design ownership or face legal action. Additionally, I continued, taking back the microphone, all monies obtained through fraudulent use of my intellectual property must be returned. Our forensic accountants estimate this at approximately $2 million. The room was silent except for the sound of typing and phone cameras clicking. The individuals responsible, Patricia added, are permanently barred from practicing in California's design and development industry pending criminal proceedings. Any firm that knowingly employs them will face investigation. A hand raised in the audience. What about the people they scammed? A restitution fund is being established, I answered. Anyone who can prove they were defrauded by Thompson O'Brien Design Group can file a claim. Chen Development is providing the initial funding to ensure victims aren't waiting years for justice. It was more than just destroying them. It was about rebuilding what they'd broken, not just for me, but for everyone they'd hurt. The law is clear, I concluded, my voice firm but not vindictive. Fraud has consequences. Now shall we talk about the future instead of dwelling on the past? The room erupted in applause. Not for the drama, but for the justice. After the presentation ended, after the investors had committed $70 million to Riverside Heights, after the reporters had their quotes, Marcus's father approached me. William Thompson, senior partner at a white shoe law firm, a man who'd always treated me like I wasn't good enough for his son. Sarah, he began, his usual arrogance replaced with desperation. Surely we can resolve this privately. Marcus made mistakes, but prison? That helps no one. Your son stole everything from me, I said calmly. My money, my work, my home. We'll make restitution. Full amount plus interest. Just drop the criminal charges. Behind him, I saw Claire's mother approaching, tears streaming down her face, my own aunt, who'd chosen to believe Claire's lies over my truth. Please, Sarah, she begged. She's your sister. Family forgives family. Family doesn't mean doormat, I replied, the words coming clear and strong. Family doesn't mean accepting abuse. Family doesn't mean enabling criminal behavior. William pulled out his checkbook. Name your price. My price? I looked at them both, these people who'd watched me fall and done nothing. My price is accountability. Your son and daughter chose to commit fraud. They'll face the consequences of those choices. You're destroying their lives, my aunt cried. No, they destroyed their own lives when they chose to destroy mine. I'm just declining to save them from consequences. I turned to walk away, then stopped. I genuinely wish them growth and healing, but that journey happens away from me, far away from me. Security escorted them out as I returned to the celebration. The boundaries were clear now, reinforced with legal steel and professional distance. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. By morning, the story had exploded across every platform. Homeless to heroin, designer exposes fraud at luxury launch, ran on the Chronicle's front page. Business Insider called it the most satisfying corporate takedown of 2025. The video clips, shot by dozens of attendees, had millions of views within 24 hours. Marcus's business license was revoked by noon. The California Board of Professional Conduct moved faster than I'd ever seen them move, citing egregious violations of professional ethics and criminal fraud. He couldn't legally practice business in the state for 10 years minimum. Claire's real estate firm fired her via email while she was still in custody. Her broker's license was suspended pending investigation. The California Association of Realtors issued a statement distancing themselves from her completely. Her carefully curated Instagram, where she'd flaunted a lifestyle built on my destruction, disappeared overnight. But the real avalanche came from their other victims. My phone rang constantly with calls from people they'd scammed, a young architect whose designs they'd stolen, a contractor they'd stiffed on payment, an elderly couple who'd invested their retirement savings in another fake venture. 17 victims in total, representing over $3 million in fraud. The district attorney upgraded the charges from fraud to running a criminal enterprise. The federal prosecutors got involved when they discovered Marcus had moved stolen funds across state lines. What started as a 5-year maximum sentence ballooned to potentially 25 years. Patricia called with updates hourly. They're turning on each other, she reported. Marcus is claiming Claire masterminded everything. Claire says she was manipulated. Their lawyers are already discussing plea deals. The restitution fund grew as more investors contributed, appalled that such fraud had happened in their community. Within a week, it topped $5 million, enough to make every victim whole. You've started something, Daniel told me as we watched the news coverage from his office. People are calling it the O'Brien effect. Victims are coming forward across the industry, inspired by your courage. I thought about those nights in the Walmart parking lot, when I'd believed I'd lost everything forever. Now I realized I'd been preparing for this moment all along. Rock bottom had been my foundation for rebuilding. Karma, it turned out, kept excellent records. 6 months after the Riverside Heights launch, my life looked nothing like the Pinterest board it once resembled. It was better, real, earned through fire. The creative director position came with a $300,000 base salary plus performance bonuses. After my first quarter exceeded projections by 40%, Daniel promoted me to senior creative director with equity in the company. The girl who'd counted quarters for ramen now had a portfolio worth 7 figures. I bought a house in Oakland Hills. Not huge, but mine. Every mortgage payment felt like a small victory. The home office overlooked the bay, where I'd once parked my car to sleep. Now I designed from that view, creating spaces for people who'd never know homelessness. The Sarah O'Brien Foundation launched quietly, without fanfare. We provided emergency funds for fraud victims, especially those in creative industries who'd had their work stolen. The first recipient was the young architect whose designs Marcus had plagiarized. Watching him rebuild reminded me why I'd chosen justice over revenge. My team at Chen Development grew to 50 designers, all carefully chosen for their talent and integrity. I implemented a mentorship program, pairing senior designers with emerging talent. Protect your work, I told every new hire. Document everything. Trust, but verify. The industry recognition came in waves. Architectural Digest featured our sustainable designs. Forbes included me in their 40 under 40 list. The irony wasn't lost on me. Marcus had always said I didn't understand business. Now I was running a division that generated $30 million in revenue annually. But the best moment came when a young woman approached me at a conference. She'd been living in her car after her business partner embezzled everything. She'd seen my story, knew recovery was possible. "How did you trust again?" she asked. "I didn't," I told her honestly. "I learned to verify first. Trust comes later if earned, and it's never blind again." 1 year later, Marcus and Claire tried one more time to contact me, through their lawyers, seeking character references for sentencing. They were about to learn that no meant no. The letter came through Patricia's office, forwarded from Marcus's legal team. Ms. O'Brien's testimony could provide crucial context for Mr. Thompson's sentencing. We request a brief statement regarding his character and their prior relationship. Claire's lawyer sent a similar request, with an added emotional manipulation. Your sister has lost everything. Your mercy could mean the difference between 5 years and 15. They wanted me to save them. After everything, they still believed I was the same person who'd signed papers without reading them. Who'd trusted, because they said to trust. Patricia looked at me across her desk. You're under no obligation to respond. I know. I pulled out my phone and dictated my response. Please inform both legal teams that I will not be providing character references. Any further attempts at contact will result in restraining orders. This decision is final and non-negotiable. That's it? Patricia seemed surprised by my brevity. No is a complete sentence. 2 weeks later, they tried again through intermediaries. Marcus's mother sent flowers to my office with a note begging for forgiveness. Claire's friends created a social media campaign painting her as a victim of Marcus's influence. They tagged me repeatedly, trying to generate public pressure. My response was swift and legal. Restraining orders filed against both families. Cease and desist letters to anyone participating in the harassment campaign. When a reporter asked for my comment on their upcoming sentencing, I gave them one line. The justice system will handle their consequences. I'm focused on building the future. The boundaries held firm because they were built on law, not emotion. Every attempt to breach them only strengthened my resolve. Marcus got 12 years. Claire got 8. Their parents still send letters sometimes, forwarded through lawyers, unopened and returned. No still means no. 2 years have passed since that April afternoon when Justice wore an Armani suit and spoke into a microphone. I still design sustainable spaces, still mentor young creators, still build beautiful things from broken pieces. But I build differently now. Every contract gets reviewed by lawyers. Every partnership includes exit clauses. Every creative decision stays documented and dated. Some call it paranoid. I call it professional. The betrayal taught me that boundaries aren't walls. They're load-bearing structures that hold up everything else. You can't build beauty in spaces where you're not safe. You can't create from a foundation of fear. I forgave Marcus and Claire. Not for them, but for me. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean allowing them back into my life. It means I no longer carry the weight of their choices. Their debt to me was paid by the justice system, not by my endless anger. Success really is the best revenge. but not in the way people think. It's not about showing them what they lost. It's about showing yourself what you're capable of surviving, of becoming, of building from ashes. Your comeback doesn't require their apology. It doesn't require their recognition or their regret. It only requires your decision to rise. To everyone reading this who's been betrayed, bankrupted, or broken by people you trusted, your story isn't over. Your chapter of justice may look different than mine. It might be quieter, smaller, more personal, but it's yours to write. Trust again, but differently. Love again, but wiser. Build again, but stronger. And remember, sometimes losing everything is just the universe's way of showing you that you were meant for something better, something real, something truly yours. What boundaries do you need to build today? Share your story below. We rise by lifting others. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. If my story touched something in you, please share it with someone who needs to hear that recovery is possible. Like this video if you believe in justice served cold and professional. Subscribe for more stories of people who refuse to let betrayal be their ending. Comment, boundaries. If you're ready to stop being a doormat for people who see kindness as weakness. And remember, the best revenge isn't destroying them. It's building something so beautiful from your ruins that their betrayal becomes irrelevant. Stay strong. You've got this.